Okay. We're gonna call the Fair Board meeting to order for September 15th, 2025. We're gonna go around the table with roll call starting to my left.
Casey Kaiser.
Jennifer Cummins.
Mike Casperger.
Larry Glenn.
Gail Merritt, and we do have a quorum of the Fair Board, and we also have Amy Crow.
And Casey Daly.
And all our visitors who signed in. Hey, very good, thank you. All right, so we need to approve our minutes from August 18th, 2025.
I would move to approve the minute.
And I will second.
Okay, we've had a motion and a second to approve the minutes from August 18th, 2025. Any discussion? We're gonna go with roll call vote. Casey Kaiser,
Casey Kaiser votes aye.
Jennifer Cummins. Aye. Mike Casper, Mike McCabe,
Larry Glenn, aye.
Gail Merritt is an aye. Motion carries. All right, we are at our public comment period.
Start in the room here. Your name and address for the record, please.
You bet, Scott Bruce. I live in Tumalo, but I do a great deal of work up here in Brineville, and I run a nonprofit locally called Connect Central Oregon. I'm very actively involved with the Deschutes County Fair Board and the Deschutes County Fair Association. Locally here, I help run the broadcast for the Roundup events. I'm very involved with a number of the rodeos, and we've got a great deal of connectivity in the community. I'm here to talk about two things. Number one, I, as a Silicon Valley guy, it's sort of an internal joke here. I grew up going to Josephine and Douglas County fairs, and having moved finally back to Oregon and moving to Deschutes County, my experience with the fair was what Deschutes County presented. I wanted to share with you that I came back here for the Crook County Fair, and I had what I typically describe as a sort of ratatouille moment where I had a flashback. I want to share with you that I experienced something that was incredibly important. I felt like I was at a county fair for the first time in years. And I wanted to share with you, you may not have insight, but many of the people that actually presented, including the fair directors of Deschutes County, the 4-H and FFA folks, all said something similar. What Crook County has is something that isn't available in Deschutes County, and it's something they long for. I just, if nothing else, wanted to simply applaud you and thank you for doing all that. It definitely felt like small town, while still within an up and coming town. I'm obviously very connected and very involved and continue to offer my support to the Crooked River Roundup and their activities. We're going to continue to raise and elevate their video broadcasts and awareness of Prineville and the Roundup. So I'm obviously very interested in what we're doing here. Met recently with Seth, who asked me to help learn a little bit more about the fair grounds, the fair board itself. I met with Casey today and learned that this agenda item is on the topic. I really only came to talk to you to basically tell you guys you did a fantastic job with fair. And for a Silicon Valley guy who grew up with small town Oregon fairs, I felt like I was attending one for the first time in many, many years. And obviously Deschutes County is going through quite a bit. They're seeking to regain what you have. I want you to know that. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Anybody else in the room would like to make a comment? Casey, do we have anybody?
Anybody online? Seeing none. Move forward.
All right, Casey, we're ready for 2025 Crook County Fair.
In your discussions tab, Haley has put together just a brief overview, and there's a copy of it right here on the table also for anybody in the room.
This is the thank you letter that I've sent to our 43 donors and sponsors that support it. Right, but it includes, a lot of those nice highlights, just number-based highlights that are quick and easy updates for our supporters.
So when the state report gets done, everybody will get a copy of it. And it's much more detailed, but this has the highlights on it for right now.
So 44,000 people.
Yes.
Would that up about 10,000 basically?
Yes, it's previous years, so yes. So we attribute some of it to the carnival, not all of it, and the carnival numbers, they did about $98,000 in sales that were good. So that's crazy for just a 3-day lead time getting them here. So we're excited to have them back, so we're in discussions to get them back here.
Haley, do you remember that number of corn dogs that were sold?
Yeah, corn dog company sold just under $25,000 worth of corn dogs in 3 days. So.
Thanks for
Everybody.
Hey, anyone else? Anything else on the highlights?
We'll just brief.
Okay. And if you have a comment with the fair. Nope. All right, so Casey, consideration of static premiums reinstatement.
Okay, so the consideration in a letter from Kim Griffin kind of go hand in hand. Last January and February at our meeting, we talked about discontinuing static premiums for the static events, which the board voted on and did. And allowed the static exhibits to move forward, including the livestock. And at that time, it wasn't voted on, but you folks said that you would come back and reconsider it after fair. So, with that being said, for any discussion, there's a letter in your discussions tab from Kim Griffin, and I'll read aloud here and kind of get the gist. So it says, I'm Kim Griffin, I'm the open class livestock superintendent for the Crook County Fair and have held that title for 15 years. I'm sending this letter to you this month of September, so you have time to decide if open class livestock will be a part of the 2026 Crook County Fair. I'll be attending the meeting in October to hear your reply, as if I were allowed to come. I need to start allocating judges and applying for some of the sanctioned shows. Since 2000, the county fair has been, county fairs have begun to decrease in the state of Oregon. We're one of the last fairs to have premium payouts for open class, and once again, no longer have open class livestock. I feel this will never return once it leaves. Times are changing, and how a county fair and time viewed drastically is changing. Can I ask folks online to mute? Hello?
You can right click and mute them yourself.
For years, I've asked for sanctioned shows at livestock shows for meat, dairy, goats, and beef. Till recently, we hadn't had enough pens to house more animals as 4-H and FFA programs grew substantially, which is a good thing. This past year, we were set to have a sanctioned American Dairy Goat Show, but with such late notice regarding having open class livestock or not, the judge had taken another show opportunity. I would like to insert here that this judge is retired veterinarian and well sought after judge, but loves our county fair. He can't wait to always be asked to come back. The ADGA sanctioned show would want to come this year if available. Our chief judge mentioned this year that if we could find a different judge, she and her colleagues would like to bring their show string to our fair, as she loves the feel that we have and the quality of animals in this area. I've also had 2 different cattle people approach me regarding bringing this to registered shop. The obstacle course for goats had 40 participants. The younger youth show are growing also again. The sheep shearing is a huge success, and the shearing is coming out of the state and out of the country. As all while all of this is happening, the public is enjoying being able to see livestock close up, and our breeders are able to make connections with their kids with future 4-H and FFA projects. We have not raised our payouts in many years, and exhibitors do not pay an entry fee per animal to attend. Most of our sheep and goat folks bring their own straw, and cost of bedding is expensive. Please consider not letting the tradition die of having open class livestock at the fair. So along with that would be the consideration to reinstate the static exhibit fees at Terry Foster Hall. They amounted to about $2,600 worth of savings this year. And from the feedback we got from the community, I would hide if you didn't continue them, because there were some very upset kids and very upset parents about the discontinuing premiums to pay out. I know it's $2, $3, and $1, but the kids look forward to that every year.
The feedback I got, people were upset, and there were quite a few people that would have donated money if they'd known that this was going to happen this year, because they felt it was very important that we had it,
Upset that they heard it may come to an end.
that we weren't paying any premiums. And they were longtime volunteers, people who've been here for a long time.
So I got the open class numbers today from Gail Clark. We had 203 children as exhibitors and 157 adult exhibitors. The number of exhibits was 677 children had exhibits, and 886 exhibits were adults. So we had a total of 1,563 open class exhibits.
Casey, is that down from last year?
Yeah, last year was about, I think it was 2089.
And we contribute some of that to the premiums. So I think what we're looking for is a consideration on the premiums for open class static exhibits, and just a reaffirmation that we would like to have open class with the 2026 county fair for next year.
Casey, one that it was tangled in with that massive cut we had to take. Right?
Yes,
Okay. So it really wasn't all our fault, but maybe they, anyway,
Well, I would move to reinstate the premiums for the static exhibits.
I'd second that.
Hey, there's been a motion and second to reinstate the static premiums for our 2026 fair.
discussion,
Any discussion?
yeah. And yeah, I'm all in favor of that. I mean, I'm totally in favor of that. I'm nothing better than that. It's in part a budget function. We ran into another year like last year. But let's go on like we didn't have it, have it paid.
Yeah. I'd say that's a good point. I don't know how permanent this decision is, but I'd say we had them in place before, and then to your point, like that we had a budget crunch, we did made a decision for that year to discontinue them, so I think we would be able to do that again, correct me if I'm wrong.
yeah, in addition to that, I think that this is something that we were approached by folks that were willing to sponsor the premium money. So I do not believe if we don't have it in the budget, I believe we can find a sponsor to cover those expenses. So I don't think it's an issue.
I believe that too, that people would step up and sponsor it.
One more thing for discussion, does that motion cover all that we need to cover in terms of the expense portion and stuff that you mentioned?
Yeah.
Oh,
It was only $2,600. It was not a big giant amount. So.
okay.
You have a question, Jennifer?
In layman's term, what is it
Premiums,
on?
is that what you're asking, premiums?
Well,
I know, I had to learn this too when I started working here, so we pay $3 for every first place winner in each division of each department of the static exhibits, which are like quilts, like king. $2 for every second place, and then $1 for every third place.
Okay.
So there's different age groups for kids, and then there's adults, and then there's seniors, so.
Jennifer, did you get through Carrie Foster Hall this last year?
No.
Everything in there, it covered about everything. It's not Carrie Foster.
So it's going through and giving prize money essentially to whoever gets first, second, third.
Exactly, and
Okay.
then we pay those out Saturday at fair, most people come pick them at Saturday at fair and then spend it at fair.
And so the concern is going through and having the money to pay it out. Okay, but it could be sponsors that do it, and people within the community are concerned that it's gonna be going away completely.
Right.
I think more of that.
And what is the probability of I'm gonna be able to get sponsors in case it comes to that? I mean,
I think it's relatively high. We were approached several times at fair saying that they'd have known they would have just written a check, and I think Commissioner Hemrick was one of those people.
So I should have welcomed our newest Fairport member. This is her very first Fairport member, so she is learning the ropes here.
quickly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so let's get back to our motion that's on the floor. That's been seconded and now discuss. Hey, Larry, we're having a vote.
Larry Blanton, yes.
I think yes.
Casper, yes.
Jennifer Cummins, yes.
Casey Callahan, yes.
And Gail Merritt is a yes, so the motion passes unanimously.
And then Kim's gonna come to the October meeting, so she's expecting an answer and maybe a vote from the fair board at that point. So we have it on record whether or not open class livestock will be at the 2026 fair, so that she can start soliciting judges and planning on shows.
So she wanted us to make a decision tonight before she comes to the meeting.
I think she wanted to present it so that some food for thought and some discussion can happen, so that in October she can get a solid answer.
Okay. Anybody would like to discuss this topic?
I don't understand why we couldn't just both,
We could,
yeah, and that way she could start on the procurement process.
Last year was an issue of paying for fence, and that's what were those measures here, but.
So we did have a vote, didn't we, this spring with it to be reconsidered in the fall after fair was over?
yes.
And so is there, maybe Casey or Haley, can you guys in like a couple sentences or less kind of give us the plus and minuses each way, so it's the cost ramifications to making that decision,
It's
rough order of magnitude?
roughly, it's a break even. The pen fees and registration fees that we get in. Essentially, we put them back out to premiums. The more entries we get, obviously that is scaled up and down. And Kim is, she's advocating for having her sanctioned show here, which she thinks would be beneficial to the fair to bring in a lot more.
And from what I understand, that sanctioned show would be a trailer in and trailer out, like one day. And they would pay to like enter. And they would be handling all their own. Would they be paid to enter? No, I don't think they would be. I think it would be a fully self-contained show. We can ask him next month, but I believe they handle all their own awards entries, so it'd really just be pen space for them. And in addition, like how sheep shearing is just an additional event for the public to learn more about livestock. This year, we ended up paying out livestock premiums that were about double what the entry fees brought in, if that makes sense. And then with the showroom sponsors, barn sponsors, we do kind of get close to breaking even. Yeah.
Are there other considerations that,
Space, pens are the two other considerations. I think we're slowly but surely solving the pen situation with all the additional pens that we have purchased. So pens are not becoming the biggest an issue as they have in the past. We're almost to the point where we are not relying on the Deschutes County to borrow pens from. And once we get to that spot, it's it's a breath of fresh air. We're able to set up that much earlier for fair, not having to do everything on Monday night. Trying to get ready for Tuesday morning. It's usually a pretty dicey situation, so.
So if they're trailering in and trailering out, then we don't need another tent for them, is that correct?
No, they would use this, they would use the show ring that was already in place. And then most of them would show from their trailers, okay, just like a wine show or.
And there'd be plan in place for them to trailer in and out.
Yes.
Yes.
My fear is if we do away with it, we will never get it back.
That has happened to many fairs. We are one of the few that allow open classes at their county fairs anymore. You pay premiums. There are very few that pay premiums. We don't want to lose it.
Do you guys have a recommendation? Staff?
My recommendation would be to allow for open class. I think it's a huge part of the community. I think it's a way for the community that's not involved in 4-H and FFA programs to be able to show their wares and what they're doing on their particular farms. So we have Jim DeBoot and his family every year come. Lloyd Bauer comes. Those folks have been sheep and goat people for many years.
So would you like a motion tonight? Is that?
Yes, if you guys are willing to make a motion this evening, yeah.
And I think the discussion too, back when you were considering whether we were gonna have open class or not, is that if we do say yes to large livestock, then that means yes to small animals. And vice versa. So I know Kim Little was hoping to get an answer on that as well, because the space in the rabbit barn is just getting
So when we're
Very
talking about open class live,
pushed out as well.
when we're talking about open class livestock, we're talking about small critters, medium critters, large critters. We would not eliminate any of them.
Can I interject something?
Sure.
I had a meeting at the 4-H office and they were thinking they're gonna do poultry in the Colbert building and just devote this to rabbits, so that would maybe take care of your small net. It's just a put, and that was a very positive, and they were gonna go towards that, so. It's just if you're thinking about the small.
Thank you.
So the open class on the small animals, they would also be a trailer in and trailer out?
No, they would be penned.
Okay.
Yeah, I think some of the considerations being looked at by 4-H was maybe a limit on the number of head that can be brought by individuals, because I know that that's been a concern, and I think once that gets addressed, our space issue and pen issue essentially goes away. So, and then we have moved the static the static 4-H exhibits into Carrie Foster Hall with the rest of them, which cleared up the Clover building and they would like to do. And I was hearing turkeys and maybe some of the larger things in the Clover building. Okay.
Maybe putting a limit on the small animals, if that's, maybe go inside like what, if 4-H and if they come up with a number, maybe that's what number you guys use for.
open class,
For the
yes.
small
I think
animals,
it'd
just to
be-
coincide for room.
It would be across the board.
And I think Risa's on board too
Yes.
with that case.
Well, I make a motion then that we include large animal and small animal open class exhibits here at the fair next year.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to include all the large and small open class livestock for our fair in 2026.
I got a question though. When do you know when or how many exhibitors you're gonna have? Is it right up to the day of fair?
No,
Couple weeks prior.
It's a couple of weeks prior, so let me know how many pins we need in space.
So let's say you get to that couple weeks before, you find out you've got more animals than you can handle. Is that too late to get another tent?
No,
Okay.
we can get tents all the way up to after fair starts. The issue with that is the cost that's associated with it, so.
Okay, any other discussion?
No, I was just gonna say, it'd be really nice when I was growing up, of course, rainbow, your black and white back then. We had a number of beef cattle. 4 or 5 different breeds, but you brought there, we filled a whole shed over there. That was really neat. We enjoyed it.
Larry? You look like you had. Okay, any more discussion? Casey Kaiser,
Case you guys are both sides.
Sharon,
Jen.
Jim, you can kill me later.
I will forgive you.
Okay,
Jennifer Cummins, I.
By Casper,
Larry Blunt, I.
and Gil Merritt, aye. Motion carries. All right, Casey, are you the indoor arena bathroom?
Well, I'm gonna let Larry and Clanton kind of give a little bit of a talk. I know this is near and dear to Commissioner Hemrick's heart also.
Never was about music.
So, during fair, during the sale, the bathrooms are well used. And people are coming out of the barn with dirt on their boots, and the bathrooms really look horrendous. So we've been nursing them along and nursing them along. And it's not the bathrooms, I say it's the user of the bathrooms. However, they are probably time to be refurbished. And so Larry's come up with a plan that he thinks is a doable, that has some partners that would help us out. So, and that's all I'll say, Larry. I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Yeah, so, we're fortunate to have a nice arena that's used for many events and they're well used by a lot of people. And the ladies' bathroom, according to my wife, is a mess. And men's restroom could also use some attention. So, and it's not anybody's fault necessarily, but I do think people would take better care of them if they look a little nicer and present a little nicer with, some FRP on the wall, some nice white paneling, maybe a ground concrete floor, some new toilets, new stalls, new urinals, maybe some new sinks and countertops, some more water conservative kind of fixtures. So I kind of know a little bit about that from the business I'm in now with Kirby Nagelhout. And so I mentioned it to Casey after hearing some things, and Casey mentioned to me that they had a year or two ago, whenever it was, remodeled the Cowboys bathroom, and it is not cheap. It's expensive to do. I've made a couple, in fact, we'd have to, probably an RFP and go to county bid, or public bid, that kind of thing, that'd be that much money. Don't know necessarily if we have a capital expenditure money to tackle something like that. If we could get some donations or something. I've made a couple phone calls to some architects, seeing if they would think about donating some ready for permit / bid drawings to help us out a little bit, and they're both gonna get back to me. I'm hoping that's the case, because we need something for submit for permit and for bid. Casey, I think you said How long ago was the cowboy bathroom?
So we did it 2 years ago and it cost us $125,000 to refurbish those bathrooms out there. That did not expand the bathrooms at all. That basically put new fixtures in it, RP on the walls.
It's expensive.
Is there a way to expand it, Casey?
Yes, we do have a way. So
What I envision is that. Where we get up there and down, put a kind of a door there and then open it up to expand for these larger crowds and then just. Shut it back for.
So right now, the configuration, there's 2 inside and then 2 on the outside. And there is a door between the 2. And so we do have the ability to open those doors and have a larger set of bathrooms.
Do you ever open them? I don't-
Yes, we do. We open them. So then you just lock the outside. When we have ticketed events inside. We currently have $410,000 available for capital projects. So there is $410,000 available right now, and that's out of our $2 million grant. So I'm not sure that would, I'm sure that we do half of the bathrooms, the inside. So sure it would do both halves, but
Larry, what,
it is available.
you know, to have some kind of a number in, just a parameter. 50,000 to 200,000, whatever, but. In your talks with these folks, have you had any? So is there a way what kind of road would be?
You know, if you're just replacing and sprucing up, that's certainly a lot cheaper than expanding. Kind of just in the due diligence phase, frankly, just kind of throwing it out that it hasn't fallen on deaf ears, we need to do something with them.
Okay.
And so we're working toward that. If we came to perfect world, we get an architect to help us with some plans and some drawings so we can sit down and look at them and throw them around a little bit, and then write an RFP for bids. You know, I would include the exterior doors so they actually work instead of, you know, the CMU block wall, the doors up there just need some work. So and then come up with I can get an estimate, you know, pretty easily through our company for nothing. And then look at our capital expenditure funds and maybe approach the county for a little bit of help with that too, but depending on how much it is, but it's expensive, everything is going expensive, it's crazy. You know, I look at that, you'd like to think, well, yeah, we could build 15 new bathrooms for $400,000, no. So, but kind of the due diligence phase, moving forward, I'll report back when and maybe if we can find an architect that will help us with it, maybe a couple of us can meet with them and fair staff and walk through, because they may have some different ideas than we do. That's my idea.
So we don't need to make any decision.
No, I
it's
think
just throwing it.
just throw it out there and like
Haven't spent any money yet.
maybe bless what the plan is and they'll get moving.
And we get the locks fixed on the bathroom stalls at the Carrie Foster Hall at St. John.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, restaurant don't hurt, but they need some work too, so it's just how much money you want to throw at. But it's all of me, my opinion. But that happens, it's not anybody's issue or fault, it's just
Right.
over time, people in and out and such. But if we have a nice event here, like upcoming hospice event and such, and it's so nice in there, and the fair crew does such a great job with the facility, getting ready for that, and then the bathroom.
So what year were those bathrooms built?
These were built in the 80s. 85.
That wasn't that long ago, you're laughing like that was a long time ago.
Thank you, Larry. All right, I'm sure this is why some of our visitors are here. Crook River Roundup proposal.
So as you know, there was a proposal sent last Sunday. It went to myself and the commissioners, and I think they didn't have all your email addresses, and I immediately got it to you guys for review. And so I think that Mr. Smith and group is here to talk about their proposal, and I
Okay, well, I,
turn it over to you guys.
okay, so,
You can come join us.
okay. So I'm Doug Smith and I've been around a long time. Before this building, before the restrooms were built. Basically, I talked to Casey in depth last summer. And I said, Casey, we got off on the wrong foot by having the county council draft a contract. And so when we got a contract, it's filled with all kinds of boilerplate. And thou shalt, and we may, and thou shalt, and we may. And I said, it really didn't hit the spirit of two organizations that have been dealing with each other for 80 years. And I'm not going to say that we haven't had some arm wrestling matches, but we have yet to punch each other. And we've yet to have any problems with somebody not paying. I mean, we work things out. And so I said, why don't we start, and I'll write a letter and we'll start this thing in September. And let's agree on the principles that need to be in the contract, rather than trying to read an attorney's boilerplate. That you sit here and part of the problem is the boilerplate, not the actual things you're talking about. There are things that we need to accomplish, right? I mean, I laugh, but I don't laugh. I listen to you talk about the restrooms. And I'm sitting here going, the biggest events that are here, the highest paying events that the Crook County Fairgrounds has are totally under bathroom by about 70%, right? I mean, we're putting people in porta potties, let alone having dirt on the floor. And we also at a point to where when we're sold out now on Friday and Saturday nights and selling standing room only seating. And then we start talking about a long-term contract that has an escalation charge tied to the cost of living. And you're sitting here going, how do we increase ticket prices 3% in order to be able to feed a 3% increase each year in the rent cost? It's almost impossible, because if you're pricing with the market in Central Oregon, and we're with where High Desert is, with where Sisters is, do you take a $25 ticket or a $30 ticket and add 3% to it? Add 90 cents? You just don't do it. You leave it at $30, right? And so the additional rent would come directly out of our income until you reach a point where you could go to 35 or whatever. And so the other thing I thought was we as a committee thought was very important was to get this off of a short-term contract and get it back to a long-term contract where at any time either party can talk and say, I'd like to open renegotiations for one item. All right, if you want to open renegotiations on rent every year, then so be it. But we're sitting here going, okay, we need something that's long-term. We're putting on an event that, if you look at commitments,
between the rodeo and races up front, we're committing probably $7,000 in advance. Right, in total, by the time you figure purses and all the things we do, it's a big deal. And last year in June, we did not have a contract. So we were going on the fact that Casey's a nice guy and he's never chased us off the fairgrounds yet, and I hope he's not going to. All right, but I mean, that's the kind of pressure that you're putting on our event. So my proposal is a 20-year contract. Right? It's a 20-year contract, and there at any time anybody can open up something. It's a list of ideas. It is not saying this is exactly how it's gonna be. This is saying these are the things we see. One of the things the other contract had a paragraph about how it was our responsibility to clean the stalls in 24 hours. Well, if you've tried to clean 300 stalls and use youth groups, because we're putting $25,000-$30,000 a year back into the youth groups in Crook County. Right, whether it be the cheerleaders, sometimes the dance group, the volleyball team, the soccer teams. And it was like last year, we were sitting here working with the soccer team, and they do really good the first day. And the second day they show up, and instead of 40 girls, they have 30. And the third day, they said, well, we aren't going to be able to make it tonight, but it's 100 degrees. You've got to have some kind of empathy to the fact that a high school girl isn't going to want to come clean stalls in 100-degree temperatures. And it got down, in case he knows this, we got down to the point we had them all cleaned except barn A, and my son and I came down and cleaned barn A just to get it done. Right? And I told Casey, we'll get it done. But it wasn't, you know, we had a very short window to do it because of 4-H horse fair that wasn't even here last year. Because it's written in a contract, and therefore you're trying to live up to the terms of our contract, when really what we need to do is live up to pleasing each other. Right? We need to do, in case he knows that I ask, when do you need it done? What needs to be done? And we've worked together very, very well. And so my belief is you have an 80-year relationship. Don't put it all in boilerplate. Don't make it to where you're writing something that somebody's going to have to default on. Write something that gives some flexibility so that the two parties can get along. And then I set the rent at $25,000, which is what we paid last year, which was a pretty substantial increase from what it had been. With the idea being that if the rent goes up, it needs to be based on the fact that our revenue is increased. There's not much we're going to do to increase the revenue on horse races or to increase the revenue on the rodeo. And I'll just give you my opinion right now is that Friday and Saturday, unless we can add more seats, there's not much increase in revenue coming. If you look at beverage sales, our problem is that we're probably selling as much or more than we should. Right? Because people have to drive to get out of here. And so I'm sitting here going, how do we make the facility bigger? How can you add on to that grandstand? What would it take to do it? And you know, I've sat here and brainstormed, because I was here when we built the parimutuel room. You weren't born. I was here when we built the parimutuel room, the old jocks room, and the county built the restroom facility that's out there. And I always thought, why did we put the parimutuel room dead center in the way of everything? And I've always thought that, wouldn't it be great if you had You're gonna get up and walk over there. Right? Wouldn't it be great if that building was gone? And this was all open and you had half a parimutuel room and restrooms down here. And half a parimutuel room and restrooms down here. And so then you had a big midway in the middle where you could put corn dog sales. And have it be not blocking the restrooms. And line of sight from the end of the grandstand to the restrooms. And you know, I don't get into bidding buildings. But I know that when I look, you know, one of the most incredible things that I've seen over the last few years was building the new jocks room. The old jocks room was a filth. It was, I wouldn't even put your turkeys in it, right? It was that bad. You build a new jocks room. Every year, 2 years now, you go in and it is clean. The jockeys are taking care of it. They love it to no end. And I think the same thing would happen if we took not just these restrooms, but restrooms all over and upgraded them. I look at, if you have restrooms on the back of my map, your map, if you had restrooms in here, couldn't they be available for the indoor arena too? Right? It's not very far, right? And these could be available for every event that's held in the outdoor arena and in the parking lots and everything else. I just sit and go, there's got to be some things we can do to expand. And so the 7.5% that we have was in the contract, the old contract from concessions would be dedicated to a fund. In my proposal, I asked that the county figure out how to at least match it. And then that both groups start looking for funding. And I'll just hit one of my pet peeves, right? The grandstand flooring was put in 1980. If you look at the stairs, if one of those boards breaks, somebody's going to sue us because they're the original 1980 boards that have been there now for 46 years. And they show substantial wear. The walkway boards are the same way. They're worn and they're twisting and doing all kinds of weird stuff. After 46 years, that grandstand needs some work. And I don't know how it's the type of work that the Crooked River Roundup probably doesn't want to touch with volunteers because of the liability risks, right? And I think we'd be crazy to start. I mean, I can weld a piece of steel on something. I don't want to go start modifying walkways in a grandstand. So the concept is to create an avenue, to create a fund to be able to do those kind of things together. So I guess that's my spiel. This was not a demand letter. Please don't take it as such. This was us sitting here saying, we want to start, we want to get a contract. We would love to have it by the first of the year. And we'd love to have people to talk to. One of the things that was kind of strange last year was every time we had a meeting, we had a different group. Right? And you're sitting here going, okay, let me start over. And I'd like for us to agree on a contract before we have an attorney write. And last year we had the attorney write the contract, and then we had to, like I said, a lot of the things that twisted me were boilerplate issues, right? And you know how attorneys will, it was the Crooked River Roundup shall, and the Fair Board will do their best. And it shouldn't be that way, right? The Crooked River Roundup will do their best, and the Fair Board will do their best. The other thing you'll note in there is, as I said, conflicting events. The only ones we care about are the week of our events. And I could care less if you want a 10 o'clock meeting in Kerry Foster Hall and we aren't using Kerry Foster Hall. But I can't have on Wednesday night a mariachi band playing next to the starting gate. Right, so there has to be some that week, there has to be a deal of, Casey says, hey Doug, I've got a chance to book a wedding. And you say, okay, what kind of wedding? Because it matters. And we want you to have as much income as possible, because if you get more income, maybe that takes the pressure off of how much we have, or maybe you have some more money to put into an expansion fund. Because Larry's sitting here, if I told him, I said, well, we're thinking the way to expand it is to come back behind it, raise the roof 30 feet and add 10 rows of bleachers. He's gonna say, that's gonna be expensive. Right? But it's a way to do it. And so that's where we're at. And that's really what we're doing, is we're saying, let's negotiate, let's get started. And let's get something that's, I hope you guys understand, long term. The details don't have to be, over the course of 5 years, you could talk about the revenue piece of it 3 times. You could talk about how we're choosing dates twice, but that's each party would be limited to bring one of the items to the negotiating table each year. So it gives us both long-term stable contracts that can move forward. So questions?
I'll go. So, first of all, I commend, it's obvious, Doug, you and the other Roundup board members care greatly about your events and this facility, so that's obvious, and we appreciate that. I appreciate going, and everybody loves it. Just my opinion here, don't hang on every word. It should also be obvious we do our best to try to accommodate a lot of people for a lot of uses here at Fairground. And yeah, we kind of got off to a little bit of a rocky start, late spring, early summer, in terms of we didn't have a contract at all. So yes, we used the boilerplate county contract that I think we can all agree was way too big and way too many things for what we wanted to get done. And then, as I recall, again, don't hang on every word. You and Steve and Mike and Casey and I, we sat down and we determined maybe the best course of action would be go back to the original contract from a year before or 2 years before. I believe that's what we did. The CPA, or the cost of the increased cost each year is actually 0 to 3 based on CPI. We had to base it on something.
Yeah, but was not in the final contract. It's a 1-year contract. That's why we're here. We have no contract.
Okay. Yeah, and a lot of that 1 year was because we were right to the wall was trying to get the darn thing done so everybody could move forward. You mentioned ago that the increase, or the amount paid for the 25 is a large increase to what you had, or excuse me, 22.5. By the way, I thought we all got along fine at the end. In fact, Steve was here. You couldn't make it. He said he had approval from the Roundup board for approval of 22.5. Help me out, Casey. And I, yeah, 25, and we had a handshake agreement on the rest of it, and that was good, and all that's fine, and I believe we got down the road on that deal. You said the 22.5 was increased over years past, so you're
25.
Yeah, total 25.
I think the 22.5 is what they've given to the
False.
donated.
Every year before.
No, 22.5 is what we donated. It's listed in this letter is what we donated to youth groups last year.
In actual
The rent we paid was 25,000
total, yes.
But before then, you guys weren't paying rent, that was going into a fund where you could use
Yeah,
it.
I was just wondering if it was actual money or not. But I don't recall exact months
The 25 ones.
For this year.
for this year, but the previous year.
And when this started was, I believe, October. Because I came here to talk about the contract at the meeting that Susie came and talked about
Budget,
the budget.
but I was the person.
Yeah, I guess the reason I'm asking that
And
question is
it's-
just to clarify what the Roundup Board had been paying to Crook County for the use of the facility in previous years,
Prior to this last.
prior to this last year.
Contract is 22 plus deposits, portion of alcohol sales and. So
So
we're at 22 plus
22.
the 7.
Well, we,
Plus I believe 5% of alcohol. And the way that the old contract was written was that Casey was come up with a number that was the out of pocket expense for the fair board. And everything else could go toward improvements.
We credited the Roundup back for improvement.
We agreed last year to 25 plus 7.5% of all concessions, not just alcohol. Right, because there was no charge on other concessions until last year. So it was Larry, it was a substantial increase in our out. Because we still spent $20-some thousand on the facility.
Yeah, and again, this is just me, I don't, first of all, I don't know that the fair board had the authority to agree to a contract in terms of that length of time. And for a fixed rate, because what that translates to is, and by the way, that rate was based on what we charge others. So we would have to do the same for others, in my opinion, so we try to be, and I'm just gonna, I underlined a couple words here that I agree totally with you on the first paragraph here. Where you're right, we recognize that our relationship has a significant impact on the citizens of our county. And it is the spirit of mutual benefit and cooperation that we present and I'm gonna stop there because I agree with that. That I think it's a benefit to Crook County and surrounding counties that the Roundup have a great rodeo and race and using the facilities, and it needs to be a great partnership. We just have to try to accommodate others too. There's other part of the letter here, you talk about a date where I believe, unless I'm reading wrong, we'd have to tell the Rocktown people they're gonna have to move their date. Just that sort of thing that I think is going to be a little bit of an issue.
So if you read how that's handled though, it's not an immediate deal, it's a 5-year deal. So we could request the dates of the Rockhounds 5 years in advance. So there's 5 years to figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
All right, we looked at the rent generated by the fairgrounds last year. And we requested the numbers. And there's no other weekends that you come close to the amount of revenue that are generated on the Roundup weekends, the 2 Roundup weekends.
You guys use all of our facilities for over a month.
Yeah, it's the use in the period of time is what calculates to the number, it makes it, but yes, you're right, but that's because of the use of the facilities and the amount of time.
The Rockham group uses most of our facilities for about 5 days, and we make about $9,000 just off of that 5 days, so it's actually pretty comparable to, like, if you're looking at just the races days, just the rodeo days, and you guys paying 25, you know what I'm saying?
We were
Like
paying
the same
25,
part.
we're paying 25 plus. I believe we figured it was 14 or 15,000 for concessions.
Yeah.
That is invested back into the facility. And the other thing that.
Wait a second, what did you say again?
Every event that we have here pays 20%.
Yeah.
Except when you.
You guys.
Yeah,
No,
yeah, yours
Yeah.
is lower than 20%.
Yeah, here's something.
okay,
lower.
but when you say 9,000, you're including concessions then.
No, that's just the base rent. just the use of our.
So that wasn't what
facilities.
was in the document sent to us.
Well, I don't know, did you see the check that was written? Cause sometimes those things like change, you know, as things go, they
Well,
rent additional.
It came from your
things.
office.
It had to come from the treasurer's office. I don't know what they sent me. I'd have to see it. To be able to.
When I looked at it this morning, the receipt this morning, cause I was like, I wonder what we do make just during Rock Town Week. It was, yeah. It's like $9,000.
But
So, and just,
so
I'm just
so the
putting that out there
the
because
thing
I,
comes down to this, right? Is prices out. Make it feasible to where we can, I mean, Sisters was in a when I was a kid, was in a downtown fairgrounds. They went out to a ranch for a couple of years and then figured a way to get another piece of property. And I've always said, in case you've heard me say this, whoever owns the fairgrounds has the turd in their pocket, because when we got rid of the fairgrounds in 1972 and deeded it to the county, and I want you to know that was a 20-year contract. That when it was deeded to the county, it was worn out. But the county had access to get grants and things that if it was owned by the Crooked River Roundup, we were going to have to basically put a gate on a lock on the gates and leave it blocked most of the year, because there was no way we could generate the revenue off the rodeo and hire a fairground for a manager and to maintain it. And that's why over the 50 years that I've been involved, I've always said we have to do things to make it better. To the point, Larry, that we're now basically renting, other than the grandstand and the jocks room. Most of what we're renting are things we built. Right, the bucking chutes, the corrals, the roping chute, roping in. I think 9 of the 13 stalls back here were built and paid for by the Crooked River Roundup. So we also, if you put on a high school rodeo, who waters the arena, Casey?
With staff and their staff.
Right, so when we come in, we use our own equipment, the equipment that's donated to us, and we use our own people. So I think 3 or 4 to 5 times, maybe I'll come to Casey and say, hey, Casey, we need somebody to do that, but it's like, I don't want to, if the water pump doesn't work, I don't want to work on a water pump.
Let's backtrack just a second though, and I know you guys do most of your own labor and everything, but how many hours of overtime did our staff have from the roundup and the horse races?
it's a huge pressure.
Yeah, there's a lot.
And I mean, since I've been here, our guys have left stalls, cleaned up trash every year.
So our staff does
Yeah, and I
help.
answering phone
No,
calls and
hold it.
walk-ins.
Not every year, because I asked,
No, most years we get involved in doing.
but this year I was here every day, and I asked you if there were any problems, and there were not.
No, there weren't any problems, but we're still doing things. So.
I'm sorry, do you mind if I interject? Catherine Armstrong from I'm a director on the Roundup Board. I just wanted to ask a clarifying question about. You mentioned every other user of the grounds is paying 20% commissions, correct? And so the rent that those folks are paying is commensurate just based on the number of days that the Roundup and the races needs the rodeo compared to. So while we may be renting it for the longest period of time, are you saying that we're kind of paying a commensurate rent when you compare to, sorry, terrible at math. But if rent is $1,000 a day, the Rock Hounders are here for 9 days, they pay $9,000. If we're here for 20 days, we make $20,000.
So when we were originally looking at doing a new contract, I made like it's like a a breakdown of if we charge you guys what we charge everybody else for every facility that you're using and the days you're using it for, and the reasons you're using it, like 7 days or whatever. And it ended up being about $38,000 base rent, not counting like any of the percentages. And then the Fair Board, you know, negotiating with the contract negotiating team and, you know, our folks and your guys and whatever. That's where that $25,000 came from. It wasn't a big bump from previous years. We felt like it was fair because it's a partnership. And by me, I'm not a board member, I'm just saying from a staff perspective, that's what I mean. And so, yeah, that's greatly discounted based on like which facilities are being used and for how many days. That being said, like Doug said, we do still rent out some of our facilities that you guys aren't necessarily using on the days. You might like we kind of block out everything for about a month or so, but like he said, if we have a meeting or if there's a small wedding in a facility, then, you know, we're still able to make a little bit of revenue on with those days. But yeah.
Each of those days is not a full day's rent. We discount almost 50% on the setup.
Yeah.
Okay.
So those days are, when we calculate those setup days are what we charge.
Yeah.
You know, Joe Smith to rent.
Okay, and can I ask you just a quick follow-up question? You mentioned that there is overtime for staff. Stall mucking and general cleanup, and do you mind if I ask what some of the other, it sounds like our event is big and creates a lot of heavy lifting for you all, for your staff, and what are some of the other pain points for you, if you don't mind sharing?
We're picking up trash from here all the way down the roadways, across the streets and the parking lots. I mean, that's a lot that goes on when
Sure.
people pull out of here on Saturday night. They're not picking up after themselves.
Well, and I'm sure overtime was $21,000 to the county just for sheriffs, and this is in the Prineville City District. So county is paying extra in our sheriff budget, which is tightly constrained. Just for this.
You know, relationships are huge here, and I think this would be, we're starting early like this, but since we're kind of clearing the table a little bit. One thing that didn't help last year either is we heard via Facebook. There was a roping event that you guys had scheduled that we did not have a contract for.
We didn't schedule it. Technically, what happened was our rodeo committee scheduled it, not the Crook Roundup Board. And they did it based on the fact that that was one of the days that was under contract, and so we're paying half rate for it. Steve then made a commitment on his own, right? Because the way the contract finished up last year was Seth got involved, talked to Steve, excluded the rest of our negotiating committee from those meetings. And the commitment was made by Steve, not the rodeo board, to pay a certain amount of money for the roping. We made nothing on that roping. We made nothing on the barrel race. There was no income, no admissions, no concessions, nothing.
Yeah, and the issue was that was the same weekend we had another event here, and there were parking issues, and we made a deal with the Roundup. By the way, we about signage, directing cars to park elsewhere. That happened. It was fine, but it just rubs wrong when you don't have a contract and then you get via Facebook that your facility is being used. That didn't go good. Regardless of who it was, to us it was the Roundup Board. And we had no contract, we had no insurance binder, we had no agreement.
Well,
And while at the same time, we're trying to write a contract for the rodeo and the races. So we met in addition to try to get that done, so just clearing the air that didn't run well.
Sure. Are there other, and the reason I'm asking about pain points honestly is so that we can work to address those and get ahead of that. So that we are your favorite tenant and we.
You are my favorite.
We have a lot of There's a lot of relationships. We have a lot of manpower, a lot of volunteers that are willing to do a lot of heavy lifting. I am new to the board, just rounding the corner on my first year. I'm very surprised to hear we have trash on this side, but we need to address that. That's, those kinds of things are, we wanna know that. So is there any, I wonder if there's any.
Yeah, I think the point of that whole thing is there's lots of residual things that the fair board, fair staff, and we're not here all the time either. You know, the fair board's not. And so it's just, it's a big event. And again, we start out by saying, we wanna have it. It's great for everybody.
And the contract says 24 hours after we're done, we have to have a clean. It's never gonna happen.
Yeah, I'd say.
Yeah, well, that's
Right.
fine, you can, yeah.
It's never
Adjust
gonna,
that. I
no,
think-
it's never gonna happen. So when I came down here and was here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And I came in and I said, kids, I believe on Wednesday, I said, Casey, let's go for a walk and make sure that everything's right. And Casey said, we don't need to, it's fine. Okay, and then I come in here and I hear Haley saying that, oh, we cleaned stalls. Did you clean stalls last year?
A few,
Where?
I'd have to get with.
Because you never told me.
Well,
And
no,
I can't fix what I don't know.
what we were doing, we're trying to expedite our next event. And it's unfortunate, but expediting for the next event, it's like, okay, so the reality is we have to out with this event and then prep for the new one.
But Casey, instead of you coming to negotiation and hearing someone say, we clean stalls, I would rather you say, Doug, stall 16 in barn B.
And I think we had several of those conversations.
The only ones I knew about were barn A.
I think there were a couple that were.
What I think would be helpful, I think it's really awesome that you guys donate to these organizations to help with like the trash cleanup and the mucking of the stalls. But I think what would really help is if we had a couple directors from the rounded board come in and do a sweep after they're finished. And just make sure that everything's done to the standard that we both agree on, both parties agree on. Cause I think that's where our staff tends to pick up the slack is the group comes in, the group leaves. And then there's no kind of follow-up and then we're just kind of.
Haley, I was here and I asked the fairgrounds no, hold it. I asked the fairgrounds manager if we needed to go for a walk. You're saying we needed to go for a sweep. I asked Casey if we needed to go for a walk and I said, everything's fine, Doug. Don't worry about it.
Talking about previous years and then future years as well.
At that point, delegate was done. Our staff had taken care of it, so it was done. There was no reason to go for a walk.
I worked with Casey and made arrangements to get all of it.
Doug and I worked very well together.
We made arrangements to get years worth of manure hauled out of this place. And at no cost to either one of us, right? And it worked fine. And that's what I'm sitting here. I thought this year we worked very, very hard to make sure everything was right. And I don't want to hear, well, we did this because we had the kids come back twice to clean up the grounds. We had the kids come back twice, right? We made arrangements to have the pavement cleaned. And then to come in and hear somebody talk about, well, years past, well, we aren't talking about years past. This is about years future.
Yeah, so in the future, I just think it would help to have that last director speak.
And Haley, I'll get a copy. I have a copy on my computer of what you sent us, and it came from you. And it was requested.
For what, for what,
And the funds, the cost, the pricing,
for all the facilities?
yes.
No, I gave that to you.
I'm not sure what was sent to me.
Okay.
I will have
Yeah,
to-
if you don't mind forwarding that, so I'm happy to show you receipts. Another pain point, since you asked, is that I take all the phone calls and I'm the person at the front desk.
Yeah.
It seems like I have like little to no information every year on like how tickets are being sold.
Oh, I can fix that.
Yeah,
I'll
and
give you my
even,
phone number.
and
We'll
even
fix that.
perfect, or like who's handling ticketing, so that I can have somebody to call, because usually I'm just like, oh, here's Steve Holloway's phone number. Here's Doug's phone number, I'm like, well, Doug's mostly racist, okay, I'll call him if I need something, racist, but then I don't really know who's in charge of each of the pieces. Or even, people have questions about which race their horse is gonna be in, I'm like, I don't know, let me run over to the, I don't know, and so just having a lot of that information up front, like even just contacts would be fantastic for me. Because all day long, the month of and the month prior are trying our best to answer questions from the public and we can push people toward the event. We have that first contact all the time, or people walking in, and then they'll be like, oh, well, it's at the fairgrounds, like, we thought we could ask you, and I'm like, I'm trying my best, and so that seems to be a tricky situation too, just not having all the information that we can share is helpful to the event.
Well, I don't think we're gonna get accomplished what we need to accomplish here. I think, there's some kind of committee here and, but I want you to know a couple things. One is this place is a black hole. There's no amount of, I could spend $300,000 out here tomorrow and like, buy you come down and tell me what I put it. I mean, it's just one of those animals. And in fact, everyone in Oregon is that way. The 20-year deal, I understand that, but Doug, together with cause or with fault cause, but we're not gonna be here in 20 years. I don't want to settle somebody with an agreement you made this 20 years. Well, I think we could put some language in there, rather than renewal or whatever, something comfortable. But just a 20-year agreement, I hate doing that to somebody on year 14 that says, what the hell would anything? So anyway, but let's kind of kick it around. It's not up to we're going to solve there tonight. And let's just go from there. I don't know. You guys have your own personal plans. Well, and these other fine people, but it's just, well, we just need to get along.
Well, so Mike, I'll tell you a little story about 20 years. So Dad was on the board in 1972 when the grounds were transferred from the Roundup to the Fair Board, to the county. And in 1972, they wrote a 20-year contract. And it shocked us in 1992 that it had been 20 years. It is surprising how quick 20 years goes by.
So fast. I personally like to see our team put back together again, our negotiating team.
Yeah.
But it's September. Last year we started in October. Then it went into.
Let's stay with it. Let's stay with it.
Well, I'm saying, this is crazy that we started in October. And we saw the first draft, I think, in February or March. And it wasn't, it hadn't been negotiated. We'd never met. It was just a letter from, it was a draft from a lawyer that had one side's input and not the others. And what I'm saying is, let's draw a draft.
And that wasn't their fault, Doug, and when I found out, I pushed it, that was our legal, that was our county's attorney that was lighting on that. And once I found out, I told him to push it forward, but again, that was not there. Yes, they maybe should have pushed more, but the blame had him somewhere.
The same day,
I
the
was
attorney
gonna tell you
that
that.
said, we don't get to keep the 22,000, we get to put it in the fund for you guys to spend on the ground, so. We both had close to pick there, so, anyway, no, we need to stay on it. What you say? Just get it done and everybody work towards that. But this is a tough place to operate. There's so much money that goes in this place that. You know, very soon well, what year was that, Casey? Do you remember when Barry dropped and Mark Stafford and that came down here and we spent $350,000?
It was for all that underground
It
work.
was underground.
You could, when they walked away, you couldn't tell it.
No, until the end.
Yeah, you know, we did a lot, and everybody did a lot, not just us, but we waived the hanging fee, the 1,800 hanging fee, we came off of our initial. $37,701. We all got together and talked about a lot of things, so we all worked hard at that.
So Mary, I didn't ask for 10,000 as a base run, this one either.
What's that?
Well, you said you came off of 37,000, we didn't ask for 10,000 on
No,
the base run.
no, I'm just,
I mean,
the point I'm making is,
there's only so much that you can only get so much. Out of somebody, and then it doesn't make sense. If it doesn't make sense, there's somebody to do it.
Do you feel like the 25 makes sense?
Wouldn't have proposed it if it did. And I didn't, you know, I didn't want to go backwards, right? That doesn't mean that's a starting point. That was the number that when we sat down, we felt was something we could put forward fairly. It was not something that I wanted to see be 30,000, because at 30,000, we're gonna probably say we can't do it. We can do 25, right? And then I'm gonna look at it and say, well, where are you going to help us get more revenue? We've added revenue to our event by selling our beverages in an expanded whiskey bar that we put the ground in, that we paid for the fence out of a container that we bought. We've rented tents to sell more tickets on the racetrack during the rodeo. Trying to come up with another point. Did the Fair Board help us with that? Did they furnish the tent as part of the rent? No, they didn't. Right, so we've been trying to do things to increase revenue.
So Doug. You were about to say. You can't get blood from a turnip. We just had a conversation a little while ago about coming up with $1,200 to put premiums in little kids' pockets.
It's 26.
Okay, 26. All right. What's your budget? It's a whole lot more than.
Believe me, I watch the heck out of things in case he knows it. I mean, we did the lights out here. When we got done with putting the lights in because Casey and Haley and I working together to find the lights cheaper. We saved enough money that we're probably going to put LED lights around the racetrack and have somebody else pay for them. Okay, so I know how to squeeze a dollar. I spent 26 years in Schwab's purchasing department, knowing how to make things work and figure items out.
So let's be careful. Let's sit at the table and discuss this instead of you sitting over there making us feel like we're being squeezed. That's difficult.
I felt like I was being squeezed, so.
Well,
I think the conversation started in such a great place. I think that really we wanna come here in the spirit of let's make this work for both parties, and you're right, your budget is super tight and we understand that. And so is ours, and we want the fairgrounds to last and this is our event to last.
we're all the same.
Yeah, I think so, so.
Yeah, I would just say I'm with Mike on this. I think I appreciate you guys coming and laying this out. I think this is gives us a really good idea what you guys feel like works good for you. I think we definitely need to chew on this, and I think 100%, at least I can't speak for the whole board, but myself, I'm very motivated and want to see this get done as quickly as possible. I like the longer term contract. I think one thing that's important for us to remember here is there's kind of three big stakeholders here. We got the county, the fair board, and the rodeo board. So I think, somehow we've got to figure out a process that kind of holds some input in all the way around there. This may be popular and it may not be, but I'm relatively new to this whole group, but I feel like I see some justification for the contract with the Roundup not being exactly the same as our contract with everyone else based on the fact of that historical investment in the facilities, the time, the energy, some of the different ways that you guys work different than other events. At the same time, we've got to find a way to generate enough revenue to keep fairgrounds going, keep the rest of it all in good shape too. And obviously part of our revenue is the rental income that we earn. So I feel like this is a real good place for us to start.
Yeah, this is a lot better start than we had
Appreciate it.
last year, and I would say this too. It's not gonna do any good for the county or the fair board to throw stone. Nor the Roundup, because that doesn't solve anything. And this is gonna be a give and take, it can't be a pull and a push. And I just think sitting down, talking things out and. You know, I'm new to the board too, been here about a year or whatever, and. You guys have way more history than most of the people, no one's gonna argue that. And the hard work and the dedication, I see it going and coming here and doing things you do, nobody's gonna ever dispute that, but. We're trying to do the best we can too. And we have an obligation to the county and other citizens, everybody else wants to have an event here and trying to wring every nickel out of every penny we have, so it's a big deal.
And Larry, I'll just say this, I was a little taken back when I hear. Discussion of 400,000 to upgrade restrooms. When I know you didn't spend that building the entire jockey's room.
No, he said that's what was available in
So
the
what's
fund.
available?
That's not what
But
really
you said it wouldn't do.
We're not
Jockey room was over $500,000. What we spent.
It showed like you should have had in 40 or something, you never, when it was all told up, it was. Right.
It was $360 of our own dollars plus a $277,000 grant.
for the jockey room.
Yeah, we spent over $500,000.
Yeah. My whole.
You just need like 5 more $2 million grants.
Another comment that I wanna make tonight, is that a longer contract might allow for both or either party to get some grant funding. If the relationship between the two entities is a little bit longer, it's my understanding that puts us in a more desirable position to be able to get federal grant money. So that might be at some point, maybe not this year, but that might be a consideration for both parties down the road.
Just one other thing I wanna say is I agree 100% with the premise that let's figure out what we want, what makes sense from the fair board, what makes sense from the Roundup. Figure out what we want in that contract in layman's terms. I think that's a great place to start. We can get that hammered out before an attorney ever gets their hands on it, or well, we'll be honest with you.
It'd be helpful if we. Set a date or time, second Tuesday, second Wednesday, second something for. A couple of board people can't be,
We can't have a quorum,
can't be a.
so
Could be a couple.
we could have a team, 2 to 3,
Mhm.
that could gather, I think. Things have changed a lot.
Don't
So,
ask me, I go to church every day, so.
So I can tell you from the tail end of my school board time. That even if you have 2 board members present, it's still a public meeting.
So
Probably what we're gonna have to do, and this is just, we'll have to verify this, but process wise is gonna get a little tricky, but probably what we're gonna have to do is have an advisory committee that can provide some information to Casey. And Casey will have to compile that into a recommendation to the board.
yes,
so,
Can we start by taking last year's contract, the one that was signed for this year's event? And let us work on that a little bit, serious.
Larry, that's the boilerplate that I wanted to get rid of.
That's the contract that we had, correct me if I'm wrong here, wasn't that? The contract from previous years?
Yeah, that's one that's modified extensively by the county attorney. And it brought in a bunch of the boilerplate that he tried to get rid of by going to the old contract.
Okay. Well, let us.
So look at the bullet points we have. Add your bullet points.
Okay.
So if I may, I'd like to point out as an outside observer here, Connect Central Oregon, my nonprofit that was created to help support organizations, communities, NGOs, and so forth. I heard you reference 3 stakeholders. I didn't hear you reference the Chamber of Commerce, the city of Prineville, the regional. We have 3 large, and we're about to have 4 or 5.
These 3
rodeos.
stakeholders will be the signers of this contract.
And I think, just as a reminder, as I'm sitting here looking at it, obviously I continue to offer my support to all 3 rodeos because it does raise our regional awareness. You have other stakeholders that can also help deliver this. And certainly from a volunteer and a community resource perspective, I'll pay close attention to it, obviously, but it's just a reminder that, but as they say, all politics are local, but at the same point, we really are delivering something. I know for me personally, I was amazed at how many people were telling me they were traveling to Prineville from around the state for that event. And that's something that from a marketing perspective does make grants available, does bring into organizations that aren't on the contract, like Visit Central Oregon, like Travel Oregon. And those are the types of people that once there is a plan put together, which really I was coming back to, is there a strategic plan for how to continue to involve the rural and the rodeo with this fair? That's really what you're talking about. We're talking about tactical contracts here, but is the plan to continue to support that, the fair and the rodeos as a really important part of the Crook County Fair, Crook County Fairgrounds and Crooked River Roundup. Again, that's just from an outsider perspective. And again, I certainly appreciate the conversations in the room.
You have a list or an idea of what grant writers are out there and how successful they've been and all that.
Well,
If you could give us some.
we can definitely compile, and I'm
I
here to
can
see
tell you
that I've got small grants
Yeah,
that have come into play last year, right? And in no small way, the rock picker was $40-some thousand.
what?
So we have a rock sifter that we use on the arena and the track because of the fact that there are rocks and they come up here
Yes.
and they break legs.
Yeah.
And last year we picked probably, I would say overall, a dump truck load of stones off the racetrack and the arena.
Yeah, Culver had one just like that. They had one that would pick up a small rock.
You know, this sifts down, this looks like a potato digger or garlic digger, and just sifts it through, it will go 6 inches deep. But once we pick the rock, it's picked for the rest of the events at the fair, right?
yeah.
It's a benefit all year long.
Yeah, I was just gonna add, I know we've looked at it sort of minorly as far as grants and what we can sort of dig into. Ours is just on our end, a lot of them require multi-length or very long-term, or to actually own your own grounds to go after those. So that's something that maybe there's a negotiation that we're both teaming on going after those grants, and we can definitely look into that to help do it. And I know from what I do for work with like the bathrooms, there's 88 grants you can easily get for bathrooms there before the EPA Act was even a thing. So there's plenty of money in all these different pools that we can definitely tap into. It's just from our end on a year-to-year thing, we can't even ask. So that's where this sort of long-term in 20 years is our idea. It could be a different length for the company.
So Doug, we appreciate you writing this letter, getting our attention. And I think we all need to digest it and go from there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
When people start calling them. If our board members have anything else you want to say on this topic?
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. When it comes to the fairgrounds and just looking at it, you know, my first time doing it. And looking at as somebody who comes to the fairgrounds, the rodeo, the horse races, the fair are the 3 biggest things that the community can't vote. That's relatively not gonna break your bank, and I think. An agreement that's reached that everybody gives. And not everybody walks away feeling like it's screwed. So it's just finding that happy balance to go through and maintain it for longevity, because it's gonna bring revenue into the fairgrounds. And that's the ultimate goal, is revenue. Sorry,
Yeah.
bottom line is the numbers and the money.
Right, and I think we all have the same goal, is to keep fairgrounds going and operating and serving our community, what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
So a question to ask you, because didn't they have like a contingency fund at one time? Where they were supposed to go through and have money put into it, they were supposed to go through. Present I think it was like a list of things that they would like to see improved, present to the fair board. Fair board's like, oh yeah, okay, and because the fact that they're not government, because everybody knows with government, you have to go through and put a bid out. They could get it done for cheaper and they could get it done for faster. It wasn't there.
That was their previous agreement, was that their rent would go into a fund where they could apply to do projects at the fairgrounds, yeah, and then the fair board would say, yes, you can just spend the money on that. They send in the receipts, they would just not pay it to us, or we reimburse them, I can't remember how that
And we
went.
take it, there was an escrow account set up.
Yeah.
For that matter.
Because it wasn't a flawless process, but
Well,
would they not, a lot of things done?
the concern with that is. That money, the 22 or 20 or whatever $1,000 it was, went into escrow account. And that escrow account went to fix projects that normally were to upgrade the rodeo facility. Well, at the end of the day, we're flat broke. And we need to be putting some money into the fairgrounds themselves. And the money that was being utilized for rent for the rodeo to be on the fairgrounds was going to the rodeo grounds, and we're going backwards. So last year, the thought was, instead of taking that money and putting it towards projects that benefit or help the rodeo, we wanted to keep the money on this side. So we fix the bathrooms, take care of some.
The attorney just held fast on that, he said, no, gotta give him that money. See, you can almost justify 22,000 for the rodeo, 22,000 for the races. If you were really after the money grab, but we want it, I think it's, everybody in this room, likes the atmosphere. All that's centered around the roundup and the races. And it's kind of old time country fair, and that's what we want to preserve. We've talked about that a lot. We just need to preserve that as best we can.
And we, as the fair board, we make decisions and we help with the operation, but yet we are under our county commissioners.
But we get paid a lot.
How is Roundup doing with their contract obligation for this year? In terms of pay?
They paid,
And
both the 25 and the additional.
the 7.5?
Oh, no, that, I think their fiscal year ends in October, so usually November 1st, you see those figures come through.
Oh, we did get the base rent and then we get the additional.
Oh, sorry, when do they have to pay the commission side of that? Or
November.
percentage side, remember?
Well, why is that? Just out of curiosity, why is that?
Do you know why that different than the contract?
It's typically when they got their books done.
Yeah,
And their fiscal years end.
that was so good. I think it came down that that's when they closed their books.
So
I mean,
that's
it
when
sounds
they
like
do
they
that
have their
final
numbers
tally
right.
of-
Yeah.
So then we're supposed to get a copy of the books, right?
Yes.
And that'll happen in November as well, then I guess.
Due November 1st, so. They usually send it to you. But in the past, that 5% of the alcohol back when they were using their $22,000 to do projects was around 10,000.
So the thing on my mind is just, we're gonna have to figure out how to navigate this process. And so last year, the way we did it was we had kind of a small subcommittee. And that was, I think, if memory serves me correct, that was 2 fair board members, essentially 2 fair board members. And then give a time, and then we kind of reported that information back to Casey. But I wonder, is there any value, is there?
So
Go ahead,
it
Casey.
it can be either or, it can be in that. That mechanism, and or we just publish all of our negotiation dates and make it in a public meeting. And then that can involve all of the third board members.
Well,
I'm partial to
the
that.
deal that kind of astounded me a little bit, and I don't know if it's true or not, but that, so I'm sure it's some substance to it, but 2 people on a 5-member, 7-member board is a public meeting.
Yes,
Yeah,
It's the new Oregon public meeting laws.
so it almost behooves us to publish all these meetings and just sit at a table and have a public meeting and have it recorded.
which
Just
would
for
be,
clarity.
Then you get the voices of all of the board members.
Then that's misunderstood.
yeah, and that part of it doesn't concern me. What concerns me is just how big your audience gets at that
Correct.
point.
It
you know,
does.
that's what
That's trying to get something done.
Yeah, so what's the optimal number of people, you know, in a perfect world, it's the smallest number of people. That has enough representation from all the stakeholders to be able to get it done, and then the more people you add, then the more difficult.
But if you have a public meeting to discuss something or another, it's not like it's the public meeting here and you're taking comment from the audience. They're perfectly willing or perfectly able to sit and listen. But it's not like you're gonna have 50 people adding information into the mix.
What I was gonna suggest was taking the contract that was signed last year. Comparing that to their letter. Seeing if there's some low hanging fruit. Something we can't adjust there. In good faith and. Try to get things started that way. And a little give and take. But as you recall, where we started having issues last year too, was we tried to do that and then everything was redlined, the entire contract was redlined.
Yes.
And that was, yeah, and BS was written on
Yes.
there and this, that, and everything, that does not help matters at all. And that's what I was saying about throwing stones and mentioning what happened in 19, that doesn't make any difference. But if we can take the contract that everybody signed last year, including us and the commissioner, and just see if there's some give and take there that we can start with in terms of good faith, and then with an agreement that everybody's gonna be give and take, not a pull and push. Everybody's not gonna get their way. It's not gonna happen.
And outside of some of the dates and, you know, arena control and some of that stuff in here. This is not far off from where we landed with the final contract. The big difference is there's some language in here about matching funds to those capital improvements. So if you think about that, that's another 7.5%. That's whatever that 7.5% is, it's that 7.5% as a haircut off of the 25,000 and that and how that works out. So,
But again, I'm not, you can maybe convince me otherwise, but 20-year contracts are not, they're not good, they're not good business. In my opinion.
You don't think we have the authority to sign that in the county?
So, but you could, Chinese, you have all kinds of weevil language. You know, if everything is agreed to, is taken care of, then we'll roll the dice for 5 more. but,
So how do
I'm
you?
not gonna be here, I'm not gonna be here.
And our biggie too is the Rock Hound pop up.
Yeah, that's where a long-term contract really helps, because we have high school finals, Count Palo, all these events that want to be with us in the summer, and to have those dates already set for the relevant races would just make that so much smoother.
That's the only thing I know is
As long as it
Gail will still be present.
Great.
She'll be here 20 years.
So how would the board like to proceed then? Would you like to put a group together and have public meetings? Or
No.
leave it as the fair board and have public meetings?
I like that idea better.
So the whole fair board.
Yeah, I do, but there's no point in coming and having a meeting and then you have to go back and talk to people, then come back and have another meeting.
Would you like a day or a night meeting?
Early night.
Yeah, I wanna make sure everybody can attend.
I'm flexible, but Casey, where's you work? Are you Jennifer? Mike, you work, Larry's working.
Mike doesn't work for much.
It's not very much, so.
You're about ready to retire.
Overall,
I
I
just
just
retired very much.
Where are you working?
Well, whatever.
Where are you working, Jennifer?
Currently at Sunrise Schools.
Spa.
So,
So maybe we can,
so would the first week in October work, the second week in October?
The second week won't work for me.
Okay,
I'm leaving the 9th and won't be back to the following Wednesday.
first week, which will be the 29th through the 4th or the 3rd.
Early.
So it doesn't work for Larry though. That must be
Well,
us, let's see.
It's your season, but
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to work till
Yes.
Friday, the 3rd, so
Come,
of October.
I'll come.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the 1st of October is a Wednesday, would that? Mondays work better?
Does that work for you?
What? Yes,
October 1st?
yes.
You didn't even look at your calendar.
He cleared it.
Okay,
Casey, well, for you, Casey Kaiser.
My
I don't
calendar
know,
looks
you
like
know,
a
but-
bunch of shit.
Well, no either.
You guys won't be hamstrung if it doesn't.
What works for me.
October 1st, 5:30. And it'll be a public meeting.
And the purpose of that meeting is for us to determine where,
I'm hoping that we give you a homework assignment to take our current contract and what was presented here to see what the differences is. And then come up with your bullet points and then we'll meet and we will pull those all together.
And you'll include in an attachment our current.
Yes, we'll get you
I have
that.
noted there's not everything, I don't know what's current.
So maybe the current and the previous one.
We got a couple minutes left, well, we got a long meeting, but. I don't have any, I'm on board and everything, I don't.
And now,
So it's-
Well, I'd like to, yeah.
so let's buzz through this really quick and that was it.
Okay,
see, if you wouldn't brought some cookies, Mike, it'd be worth sticking around a little longer.
so Mike, you were just telling, we're on board member reports, you're just telling us you don't have anything to report on, like, okay. All right, Mike Casper.
No.
Casey,
I do not have.
I don't really have anything either, Larry,
I'm good, thank you.
all right. Administrative assistant report,
I don't have anything for today, I just wanted to share the thank you letter that I sent out.
Never had that, yeah, that was good, that was good.
Thanks.
okay, we already kind of talked about fair update.
Yep.
Financial, Casey,
So in your discussion tab, or excuse me, in your reports tab is the current financial, I know number, Kaiser was diligently looking at it, so I think it passed muster.
I should have that.
Yeah, okay.
Fair was great for us. The only thing that I wanted to point out, page 5 of the fair financials, is that the fair vendor fees are only showing up as $4,700, but ain't no way, because we have more vendors and I charge them more, so I will try to get the correct figure for that.
Mike and I certainly didn't lose any paperwork or haven't got that or what.
Oh, no, absolutely no. Nothing flew off the golf cart.
I've still got the check marks.
Okay, any questions on the financials?
And you're welcome to take them out of your book,
Just
No.
take whatever you like out of your books, just don't
and
take
study
the
them
book.
at home, and then if you have any questions, just shoot them to Casey and Haley. Yeah, they don't like us to take our notebook home, Jennifer, but you can take anything out of the notebook.
You'll be ripping, I'm you're tired.
All right, managers report.
Okay, so for September to date. Terry Foster Hall was used as an evacuation center from the 1st to the 5th. I think we housed
For the fire,
for the fire. I think we housed and actually overnighted 4 or 5 folks. The projected fare attendance of 42,000 does not count the off-street parking. We just didn't have any visibility there. We had a lot of people up and down Fairview and up and down Lynn. But we just had no way to count them, so
and they know it was free parking.
we were full at that
Oh,
point,
okay.
so it was more of an overflow, so I just wanted to do that. We're still in negotiations with Wold Amusement for the carnival next year. I did talk to Mindy in John Day, they had an excellent fair with the same carnival, and so they're very hopeful. We have talked with Mike Casperger about a new entryway right east of the archway to go down into our parking lot, so we're not bringing all of this fair traffic down to the Y. And that will be just in case we have another opportunity with the carnival. So there would be, as you come on underneath the archway, you can turn right now into the covered barns. You'd be able to turn left and go right into the parking lot instead of coming all the way here. So we're talking about that, and I was talking to Ray Merrill about what he thought that would be costing us. So October 16th to 18th is the OFA conference in Washington County. My plan is to take the maintenance staff and myself over. There's a maintenance mania program on Wednesday and then come back on Thursday. But it's certified for heavy equipment, forklift operators, and then to kind of do a mind meld with some of the other operations folks around the state. Western Fairs Association is in Reno from January 18th to the 21st. Right now, I'm the only one going. I think it's probably financially probably the way we should keep it.
Yeah.
But if anybody's interested, please contact me. We can do that. So the one non-generating event that we had in September so far is the evacuation center. So that's all I had.
Should we unmute if anybody has anything?
Any other public comment online?
I think they're muted on it.
No.
Yeah, we only have public comments in one spot.
Yeah.
All right, any comments from the board? Well, then we have to have a motion to.
I just made this.
Did you, I can hear you, sorry, Mark.
And I'll second.
All right, there's been a motion, and a second to adjourn our fair board meeting. Woodruff,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Casey,
Enthusiastically votes yes.
and I am a yes too. So meeting adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.